previously. I have to conduct a test video taping since the last failed to be recycled. It's just a failed to be recorded. In scene it's okay, but muted is difficult at technical problems. Sorry to begin as late as 12:30. So I have to beg additional time. So if you have the next class, 1 o'clock, you may leave. So I distribute the class chart, check your name, and leave silent. Okay, and you made available some printouts, which guides you about some basic understanding of this course. For example, the risk is usually involved in international trade action and also international business transaction, and some essences about associative law in international trade law, for example, international customer law, and also CISG and other norms were introduced to frontier the discussion of this whole class. So it will be useful and keep for reference of this class through the term. Printout titled Introduction to International Business Transactions. This book is useful to see the legal and practical nature and presented in summary form about key principles and essences extracted from business, economics, and law. The authors actually studied law and now served as a professor in a business school. So their ways of dealings and the basic position was to inform a youthful knowledge and some basic points the entrepreneurs and other business workers, business employers need to deliberate. So in some time frame, I would infuse this perspective by making you available of some key principles. So that should be complemented. In other aspects, I also like to expose to some key cases and their implications about international trade law, which will stem from a case book series. One of notable authority in this area of law would be Forson, and he also the international trade law in the collection of major cases and articles endeavored by many legal scholars in this area, and also their comment and some of basic introduction about the concepts and the problems along charted through the the international trade law would come a rather updated context and some actually new form of laws, principally motivated by a framework of United Nations at the end of World War II. So we often call the context as new lexicatory. In contrast with the old lexicatoria, which trace back to the Mediterranean era, also in high globalization of the area, by evolution of new classes, commercial merchants and other business business organization and build kind of flourished, which requires source of law to govern themselves. In this area, we can see some of a pivotal principle still influential through the of trade law. So customer law flourished to the business. Also, we could witness the kind of a new nationalism in European countries. So you can see a contribution from Savini, you may have the name in college through the courses, who is will here to shape and provides a framework about a conflict of laws. The law is central to understand the national legal forms of this area of law. Of course, a more desired way to deal with international business would be a uniform type. However, that would not come absolutely. That involves often a serious contention and disagreement among various jurisdictions. So it is obviously problematic to reach some form of a uniform private laws. In that app, we have achieved a relatively successful service at a hardship. For example, is notable as a successful product through many countries, but it is still because of that nature and quality of problem. So the conflict of laws, the complement, very importantly, the absence of uniform private laws is a key code, and you can also identify in the code collection of the Korean jurisdiction. Conflict of laws, titled into international law, Korean code, is nevertheless domestic law. The National Congress of South Korea is the authority to enact the code. So don't be interrupted with names. Some confusion may arise. So in this class, I like to introduce two non-flexible product. You have to keep scrupulous, but not ignore false. So I will present this essences of document. Here, it's actually frustrating. WTOs, as I've said, plays in separate dimension between the private and public law concepts. It is public law in nature and international agreement in original form with a multilateral trade agreement, MTAs in abbreviation. So set of norms offers the basis of WTO and define the nature of organization. The norms principally covers the formation and structure of a global market. So it is a norm in public nature to govern the member states. So the rights and duties arises in the context of inter-nation states and inter-member states. So it is public law. In the light of contrast, you can see what UNIDROIT principles, International Institute for the Unification of Private Law. It is organ administered within the context of United Nations and is part of the organizations titled UNIDROIT principles. Other twin organization would be a UNCITRAL. You may be familiar with the organization through the course. And these two organizations are principal actor to revive the Lex Mercatoria. So we have, thanks to these organizations, we have some success in magistrate or about codification effort. This document was framed in the form of principles, and you may well conceive the nature of this norm from the risk taking. Have you know the word risk is the second in the United States is a case law country, but practically it is quite a powerful influence and also to this in the United States. So the essence of case laws were marshaled in as corresponds to with the provisions of the code. It has attributes as a restatement since the norms were deliberated by the force of scholars. It was made available by scholar groups. So some commentators they play a prank about this consequence in the international, the area of international laws, Republic of Scholar. You see, so Scholar is absolutely distinct from the state authority. So it is a non-state norm, actually, in nature and quality. So without any additional ground, it has no binding effect on the parties and interested nations. Of course, it is also principally oriented to what a private concept of dealings. So it will be massively irrelevant with international operation of laws. So, but it contains a principles of a contract law, which is guiding and in principle foregrounds essences of contract law requirements. So these two norms are foundational through the courses. Another source of law may be found in the long years of decades of work endeavored by International Chamber of Commerce. So, for example, UCP, which is the norm to govern the letters of credit relations between the parties, were produced by this very organization. International Chamber of Commerce is actually salient in this area of law. And also what Incoterms, that is the product which defines the typical pattern of a sales contract among the global merchants. So, FBI and CI and other various terms were defined in view of a legal effect and its consequence, and the rights and duties scoped across the terms CI. So in this class, we need to get some more about a public nature of international trade law, which our focus principally shared on WTO. Of course, for example, FTA between United States and Korea would be one source of law about the public nature of international trade law. So there are two camps, as I've said, in understanding the scope of international trade law. For example, Professor Forsum has a practical eye to penetrate all the legal issues collected in one theme, international trade law. So he dealt with WTO laws and anti-dumping laws and other regulatory measure on this area from the government, and also he likes to be interested in a private contract. So the international trade law scholars in the United States endeavors to see what is a pivotal norm to practically affect the parties. in that sense, perhaps the contract specifically negotiated, drafted, and agreed by the parties would be a private law. That is not incorrect. So practically, the contract is the focal point. The international trade lawyers should exercise their professionalism. As you see, for example, Kim and Jang and other notable law firms in Korea often involved in drafting of a major contract and other protections. So it is the principal share they do in the workplace. And it is also, so a trial lawyer may, if we come across the small firms, the large firms would have their share more prominently about the contract review and others. Of course, trial lawyers may have a remarkable success in some rare cases, and highest groups of income lawyers may be found in trial context. So we now see in some of basic principles spanning from a non-discrimination and others. Several elements were presented in the projection, you see. Non-discrimination and reciprocity. The reciprocity is a basic principle the international laws now sustain through various types of norms. And WTO laws is also in that class. It is a branch of international public law. I say international public law to make an emphasis against the private nature of international norms, which is a principal subject in this term. So we share many times with a contract law, international, beginning with UNIDROIT principles, as I've exposed, and letter of credit to ensure a payment. So it's kind of a credit risk, payment risk, many risks distinctive from a domestic nature of contract. And I also make a point about international arbitration, which is typical to administer justice between the disputed parties. So reciprocity is a public law concept. And you can see a binding and enforceable commitment. So the extent of normative nature was actually enhanced through the Uyghur negotiation Uyghur round, and the dispute settlement mechanism was highly strengthened and became an effective instrumentality to ensure predictability and legal stability within the WTO organization. And notably, one of the new concepts and principles now patronized by WTO and respected by many concerned the nation states and the trade states and diplomats would be transparency. So you can understand some contrast between the private force and nation state. What is the principal contributor about less transparency. There should be from a governmental branches and the enterprise forms, particularly multilateral, multinational corporations often desire to see transparent nature of administration. The host countries or foreign investment and others, they like to see less obstacles and less inconvenience and more clarity with the thrust for the pillars of argument. And so the WTO could be seen in massive aspect about liberalization scheme or liberalization initiative in the global market. So you can see it could be resonant with the classical theory of economics, for example, Ricard, International Division of Labor, or Adam Smith's paradigm of a perfect market. So the nation state is an actor to intervene, but within the regulatory scheme of WTO, so they are expected not to be repugnant to the WTO multilateral trade agreements. The breach may bring a sanction systematically through the dispute settlement process. So the judicial nature is one of a transformative profile through the international organization. Notably, that context was realized in WTO. So you may have some basic awareness between previous form of GATT and WTO. Since WTO would be political. For example, the decisional panel could not go into effect without all consent of member states. So one dissenting state may invalidate the decisional panel. That is quite reversed in the context of WTO. So one agreeing state would validate the decisional panel and the decisional appellate jurisdiction. So practically, it is inconceivable the panel decision or judgment of appellate body would be frustrated with, because of a political reason. The member state is now on less voice, less influence. Actually, of course, they are originators of MTAs, but they are also they are norm givers and also norm receivers. They are bound by their agreement. So it is one of equality we principally can find in international public law. So now, that is not a law in WTO. The unanimous agreement, assent to the panel's decision should be ensured to make decision into effect. What is non-discrimination? This principle has evolved from the GATT, and one of also heritage principle through the international public law. And this concept is identical in best aspect through the GATT and WTO. Non-discrimination. in reversed understanding, it is what equality among the parties. So the member states have to be treated equal and non-discriminatory in WTO framework. This principle has two major branches. So what a most favored nation state principle and a domestic treatment. A national treatment. We often say NT. So MFN and MT. Have an interplay to ensure non-discrimination against the member state. What is MFN? MFN rule requires the product made in one member country be treated no less favorably than a like good that originates in any other country. Thus, if the best treatment granted a trading partner supplying a specific product is a 5% tariff, this rate must be applied immediately and unconditionally to imports of this good originating in all WTO members. So it represents a classical notion about equality of a states in the international arena. It is a resurrection in the area of trade laws, and the concept also corroborating with our principle enshrined in the domestic constitution. We can see the statue embossed in the words liberty and equality in the Supreme Court of South Korea. The concept also can be applied in the context of WTO. Non-discrimination is compatible with the notion of equality, and I have said that the liberalization of trade also pertains to what liberty concept in the classic constitution. So we have some enlightened ways of approach in understanding the dealings of WTO if you share that analogy. So what is national treatment? National treatment ensures the liberalization commitments are not offset through the imposition of domestic taxes and similar measures. The requirement that foreign products be treated no less favorably than competing domestically produced products gives foreign suppliers a greater certainty regarding the regulatory environment in which they must operate. The national treatment principle has often been invoked in dispute settlement cases brought to the court. So you can note these two principles are prime source of controversy and dispute in WTO. So many international lawyers raised the point in a violation of this principle, national treatment, and also one other should be a MFN, a most favored nation treatment, that offers the basis in its very effect over a plethora of cases now. So what matters is the existence of discrimination, not its effects. So that is the point about national treatment, and also national treatment differs from MFN because it just matters with within the domestic market. The MFN is a principle to guard against international area. So the tariff line in time is critical to distinguish between those principles. So once one local high school has offered the lunch food in discrimination against the foreign products. And also that was sustained by local government in Korea. So do you agree if that measure is conforming to WTO requirement? 언제 한시요? Yeah. Okay. Sorry to interrupt. So actually, I regret to see some of redundancy through troubles of this class is derived from a technical problems. The reservation of this room seems to be larger. So we now stop here and our complement I might explore some makeup class later. Any questions? And have you complete all the attendance? Okay, thank you for your attention and see you in the next class.